Hello, good afternoon everybody, and welcome to the Find Your Time Challenge. So thank you for being on board. This is the first challenge that I've done, so it's really good to have you in here with me. And it's a group that will be kept open afterwards. So you guys are the first ones in there because it's the first time we've done it. So it looks reasonably sparse, but it's quality, not quantity. And to be honest, that doesn't matter because it's about you doing the work for yourself rather than how many people are in the group. But as the challenge keeps repeating, then obviously more people will be added in to the group, and you'll be able to give each other support. And obviously I'm going to be in the group as well, and that's the place you can come and find me and ask questions and get additional support. So obviously this challenge is about finding more time because we're all super busy. So I'm conscious that obviously you've given time up to take part, so I don't want to use up too much of it. So we're kind of going to jump straight in. And just quickly to say how it's going to work. So for the next 4 days, so Monday through to Thursday, I will be coming on live at 4 o'clock and going through the next sort of stage of the challenge and setting you a task, your homework to do for the evening. And again, there's nothing that's going to take you hours and hours and hours because that's going to defeat the point of it. A lot of this is more about thinking about stuff and just sort of making some connections and realizing what's going on for you. So that's sort of how we're going to run. Each day after I've done the live video, I will upload the workbook into the file section of this group, so you can get all the information that we've gone over in the session, and that will go through the task for you as well. So that's a reminder. So don't worry about having to necessarily take a load of notes because that's going to be put in for you as soon as the video session has finished. So today I want to start talking about the value of your time. And then we'll get into some more sort of practical task analysis from tomorrow onwards. So starting off with the value of your time, because I think we all have to sort of realise the value that our time has to understand then why it's important to think about which tasks that we spend our time on it. Now, in the pinned post at the top of the group, there's a link to a couple of different videos which are only 2 or 3 minutes each, but they're just a sort of reminder, memory jogger about the value of our time, just as a sort of a generic thing. So they're worth watching if you haven't already watched them. But I want to think today a bit more in terms of specifically around business and your chargeable hourly rate, and looking at things a bit more sort of practically, if you like, from a business perspective. So what often happens for a business owner is that when they start their business, they will be time rich and cash poor. Get that the right way around. Okay, so they tend to do everything themselves. That's the cheapest way to do it. Obviously, you've got a lot of time, you've just started your business hasn't started to roll in yet, so rather than paying somebody else to do stuff, you're doing it for yourself, and that's a sensible way to start. Obviously, we all have to be conscious of the money and how much we spend. What happens over time is obviously the business builds up, gets more successful, and your time begins to diminish, so you then become time poor. And this is where a lot of people end up. They're running around trying to do everything that they were always doing, but actually they've got more work to do as well. When I say work, I mean sort of the paid work. So they really started to struggle and they're running out of time. And that's when we need to start juggling things around and saying, okay, which things should I be doing and which shouldn't. But people have often got themselves ingrained into a mindset by that point that it's expensive to get other people involved. I'm now earning some money, I don't want to sort of spend it all, or else I'm not going to have enough left. And so today is really just about reminding people that your time isn't free. It does have a value, and it's actually about working out what's the best way to use it. So in a service industry nation, a lot of us are basically just selling our time. That's our product, so it does have a value. And if you are literally selling your time for an hourly rate, then that's quite easy to see what the value of that time is. A little bit more difficult if you're selling a physical product and actually your role is to market the business, build the business, grow it and take it to the next stage. It's not quite so obvious what your hourly rate might be, what the value of your time is per hour. But just think about if you had to employ somebody to come in and manage your business and grow it and take it to the next level, how much would that cost you? You wouldn't expect to get somebody in at a really low rate. You'd expect to be paying a reasonable salary for that person. And so that again is a reflection of what the value of your time is, because that's the role as a business owner that you're taking on. You're there to grow the business, take it to the next level, think about the strategy. So whether you're doing the work and being paid an hourly rate for it, or whether you're growing the business and moving on and thinking of all the sort of management strategy stuff, there's a value to your time that is well above, or should be well above minimum wage. It has quite a high value in terms of employment. So what that means is, if you're trying to do everything, you're trying to do all the stuff that goes on in a business, then you're spending your valuable time doing some of the tasks that aren't so valuable. Now, this can be a bit controversial, and I'm in no way demeaning the sort of administrative industry. And those of you that know me know that that's where I've come from. And I absolutely understand the value of the people that do those jobs and those jobs being done. They're the jobs that keep the business going, and that's why we have to struggle to try and keep fitting them in amongst everything else we do, because they need to be done. They're the foundations of what keep the business going. Unfortunately, the way it works is that those jobs that are support roles, that aren't the sort of front-facing, money-earning roles, don't have as high a value attached to them as some other roles. And so consequently, how much you pay to get those roles done is less than you might pay to get somebody who's going to go out and bring your business in, for example. Okay, so that's kind of just the way it is. And so it makes sense that if you've got if your time is worth quite high value, you're either charging it out at an hourly rate, or the work you're doing is classed as quite high value work. It doesn't make any sense then to spend your time doing things that are classed as lower value tasks. So, as I say, we're thinking today about the value of your time so that you can understand why it's important to prioritise which tasks you spend your time and effort on, and which tasks you get somebody else to do. So I want to do a quick run through a quick calculation with you, and this is to demonstrate how your time isn't free, because I think that's often what people think, is that actually it's cheaper for me to do it myself than to pay somebody else to do it. Okay, so because I'm not physically having to get my credit card out or my purse out and pay over some money for somebody else to do it, then that means it's free, and that's not the case, and that's what I want to try and demonstrate with this calculation. So it's really simple, don't worry, you don't have to be a maths genius to work this out. We're just going to keep the numbers easy. So let's say, for example, that you sell your time at £100 an hour. Okay, so if you then say, right, okay, I've got a load of paperwork stuff to do, bookkeeping, typing, admin, whatever it is that needs catching up on. So I'm going to spend Monday morning, Friday afternoon, whatever, I'm going to spend that time just catching up on all that paperwork. And you sit down, you spend 4 hours doing that. What you've actually done is you've stopped yourself earning £400. Because in the time that you've sat and done all that work, that 4 hours you've sat down and done all that admin work, you could have been doing some paid work, and somebody would have paid you £400 for those 4 hours. So that's a loss to your business, effectively, of £400, because you haven't been able to go out and earn that money. Now, let's take an average sort of VA wage of £30 an hour and use that as an example. If you're employing somebody, you obviously be paying much less than that, and you might get a VA for less than that, or if you're down south, you might be getting a VA for more than that. So let's just use that as a sort of average. So if that 4 hours of admin work was done by somebody else at £30 an hour, then you will have paid £120 for that work. Now that might seem like quite a lot of money. I've just paid out £120. I could have saved that money by doing it myself. But if you then spent that time going out and earning your £100 per hour, you would have earned £400 per hour. You would have paid the VA or the admin support or whoever to do the 4 hours on the work at £120, which therefore leaves you £280 better off. So yes, you haven't got your full £400, but you've got £280 that you wouldn't have had if you'd sat and done all that admin work yourself. And also bear in mind, if that was admin work that was taking you 4 hours to do, then actually it's probably not going to take your admin professional 4 hours to do, because that's what they do, that's what they know, that's what they're good at. So you probably only end up paying for 2.5, 3 hours maybe. So you're actually even better off than the calculation has said. So what I want you to do for today's task is to really just think about your value and that calculation and apply that into your life and your business. Okay, so the calculation's in the workbook, so don't worry about that. And obviously, if you are somebody who charges out at an hourly rate, then you've already got that hourly rate. You can substitute that in. And if you already pay for support, either through somebody that you employ or you have a VA already, then you can substitute that hourly rate in as well. And so that gives you a fairly quick, easy answer without taking up a lot of your time. However, I would just suggest that if your hourly rate is an hourly rate that you kind of stuck your finger in the air and thought, I think this is probably what I should be charging, then you might want to work that out a little bit more scientifically. And in the workbook, I've sort of run through 8 points, just to help you think about your actual expenditure and how many hours you work, and just sort of working out a bit more scientifically what that hourly rate should be. Now, it doesn't need to be, for the purposes of this challenge, that doesn't need to be to the penny. It's just to give you an idea in reality what your expenditure is, and that's your personal expenditure, so what you want to pay yourself as a wage, plus what's in your business that needs to go out, and the hourly rate that you need to have to cover that. I'm aware that not everybody, it won't be that simple for everybody. I know we've got John in the group, and I'm guessing that his income comes in by way of commission, or something a little bit differently, some way a little bit differently. And in that case, you may already know your figures anyway. But if you're earning money in a slightly different way, then can you work out on average what your hourly rate is? So if you're selling a product and you get paid commission for a sale, how many hours on average does it take you to make that sale? If you have to go to meetings, how long are the meetings, how many meetings you go to, just to get an idea of what your hourly rate is. And as I say, it's really simple. We're not here on an accountancy course, so it doesn't need to be to the penny. The idea of this is really just to make you think about what is your value, the value of your time. So the videos in the work in the pinned post just make you think generically about, actually, maybe life's shorter than we think, we need to get more in, we need to think about how we spend our time and not waste it. This exercise is a bit more specific about business and about money, and actually, my time isn't free. There is value to my time, and I need to think about how I balance out. We're all doing too much. If I've got to get rid of some stuff, let's think about this a bit more logically. Okay, and so that's it for today. So you may already have this stuff cracked, and you might know your hourly rate, and so there's not much homework for you to do. Or if you just want to sit and think about that a little bit more and in a bit more detail, as I say, there's 8 points in the workbook just to help you sort of go through and think about the actual figures behind your hourly rate. So I'm going to upload that workbook into the group as soon as we finish here. And So feel free to download that, have a look at that. If you've got any questions, then pop them into the group. I'll be keeping an eye on the group and I'll answer anything that you're asking. If you've got any observations or any comments, then please put them in there as well. And we'll be back here again tomorrow at 4 o'clock again. And tomorrow we will start to get a bit more practical around your tasks and looking at the task management. So thank you very much for joining me on day 1. I look forward to seeing you on day 2 at 4 o'clock. Bye now.